Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. In this video, we're going to react to oil rigs caught in monster waves. I've always been fascinated with oil rigs. Like for a long time, I've always wondered, what's it like to work on one of these things, you know? Because from what I've seen, the people there often work on a sort of rotationary basis. So there'll be 7 weeks on or 7 days on, 7 days off. But when they're there, they're working pretty much round the clock, you know, just sleeping really, like work, sleep, work, sleep. And the job is, you know, it sounds simple because you're pumping oil, you're pulling oil from deep, you know, within the earth up into the rig. But, you know, the mechanics of it and the engineering are so complicated. And, you know, you've got the ocean to contend with, like getting battered by millions and millions of tons of water, and this rig has to withstand that and do its job. It's got to be really crazy to work on one of these things. So this video, I'm really looking forward to watching it.
From massive 50-foot waves crashing into a Norwegian oil rig deep in the North Sea, and a floating platform in the Gulf of Mexico that got caught in a hurricane-force storm, to a catastrophic failure in the Persian Gulf that saw $40 million sink in seconds, and a 15,000-ton vessel bouncing in colossal waves off the coast of Scotland. Here are 7 oil rigs and offshore platforms caught in monster waves.
Let's go.
The North Sea is a shared body of water between the UK, the Netherlands, Denmark, Norway, Belgium, France, and Germany. As of 2018, it's home to the most active offshore oil rigs in the world, with 184 in operation. The Gulf of Mexico comes in second with 175. Monster waves, also known as rogue waves, are no joke. They can damage even the largest of oil rigs and cargo ships. The North Sea also has some of the biggest rogue waves in the world. Just ask these guys on board a Norwegian oil rig in October of 2020.
Jeg har det på film. Jeg har det på film.
Man, these rigs have to be durable.
Fy faen.
You know, and have loads of like not holes, but outlets to let the water pass through. Otherwise, you're going to get capsized. How do they stay, like, level?
Rogue waves used to be a thing of myth. Sailors and rig workers would tell stories of monster 50-foot waves crashing into their vessels. Technology caught up, and we began tracking these waves with digital tools. Still, rogue waves are extremely rare. Do you think the ones in this video met the criteria? Let us know in the comments. If you left Kristiansand, Norway, and ventured about 81 miles into the Norwegian Sea, you'd stumble upon the Njord oil field. There, you'd find a massive floating oil platform called Njord A.
Do they drill? I mean, do they have like pillars that go all the way down to the floor? Because that's got to be the only way that they keep this thing straight.
The oil field was discovered in 1986. Drilling plans were approved in 1995, and production started in 1997. From then until 2016, the Njord oil field produced 167 million barrels of oil and 11 billion cubic meters of gas. The waves can get pretty crazy in the Njord field. Mother Nature has a funny way of combining scenic beauty with raw power. In February of 2023, one rig worker recognized that combination. She pulled out her phone and recorded the Norwegian waves in all their glory.
It's so mesmerizing, honestly, watching, you know, water move like this. It almost looks like slow motion because there's so much of it.
Footage like this really puts into perspective how brave you have to be to work on one of these rigs. The Njord A was only supposed to last until 2013, but new oil discoveries near the field extended the rig's life. Modifications made between 2016 and 2022 will allow the vessel to continue production until 2040.
Wow, fair play. I mean, they must cost so much money, these rigs. I think the narrator said one of them lost $40 million, but was that the oil it had, or was that the cost of the rig? It's probably, probably more than 40 million, right, for a rig?
Life on the ocean isn't easy. Shift times and patterns differ from rig to rig. According to FutureLink, a payroll compliance company, rig workers can spend 2 to 3 weeks on the rig and another 2 to 3 weeks off the rig. Back in early 2017, the crew on board the Judy and Joanne oil rig in the North Sea was preparing to come home after completing their shift. They were only 150 miles off the coast of Aberdeen, Scotland, when a powerful storm cut their plans short.
Jesus, that was up at the spider deck, Morgan.
Man.
The Judy and Joanne platforms stand in 246 feet and 259 feet of water, respectively. The weather can get pretty crazy in the North Sea. Just look at how those 50-foot waves come up to the catwalk. Workers come and go from Judy and Joanne via helicopter. Unfortunately, this crew got stranded when the storm made flying extremely unsafe. They spent 3 extra days on the rig waiting for helicopters to arrive. Hopefully, they got good overtime pay.
How much do you make working on an oil rig? It's got to be pretty good money, right? Because of the safety hazards. Not only are you on a platform in the middle of the ocean or the sea, but you're extracting, highly flammable substances. You're dealing with massive machines. You're away from your family, working on sociable hours. It's got to be good pay. Are we talking 6 figures? Probably. It's got to be. Has to be. Even for the lowest ranking person, surely.
The Borgholm Dolphin is what's called a semi-submersible platform. They're stationed in the North Sea, about 145 miles off the coast of Scotland. It's basically a floating oil rig. When drilling in waters deeper than 1,700 feet, you can't build a stabilized platform. Instead, oil companies rely on floating platforms supported by giant pontoons. Since the operating deck is high above sea level, it's usually pretty stable. But when a storm moves in and the waves pick up, the entire rig can start bobbing around. If you're prone to seasickness, rig work probably isn't the best career path for you.
Because the rig moves, which makes me think that how can it can't have pillars that go to the base of the floor of the sea. Because if it did, wouldn't it hold the rig really rigidly in place? Because you can see it moving. Like, how is the oil rig, what is keeping it sort of stationary? Because you can see it's moving with the wave. Is there some kind of like a massive inflated thing underneath it that's keeping it afloat? Or maybe it's got sort of like a hull, like a sort of semicircle type thing underneath the visible part of the rig. Kind of like a boat would have. That bit.
You're looking at a 15,000-ton structure bouncing around like a bath toy. According to James, our cameraman, the storm struck on January 10th. Thankfully, they knew the storm was coming and could prepare. James kept recording as massive 40 to 50-foot waves crashed into the Dolphin. To put that into perspective, that'd be like standing next to the Hollywood sign in California. Each letter is 50 feet tall.
Wow.
When drilling platforms reach the end of their life, they're dragged via tugboats to scrapyards all around the world. On August 7th of 2016...
Okay, I think I was right. Because can you see, this looks semicircle, so this is probably the base of a rig, isn't it? Or maybe this is actually just a cruise ship that, you know, they're scrapping.
One such rig, called the Transocean Winner, was on its way from Norway to Malta when it got caught in some rough conditions. It was the worst summer storm the region had seen in years. The wind blew upwards of 40 knots, and 30-foot waves smashed into the rig and tugboat. The Winner broke free just as they left the North Sea. The 33-year-old 17,000-ton vessel floated towards the Scottish island of Lewis while the tugboat radioed the Coast Guard for help. But how do you reel in a runaway oil rig? Easy, you don't. The Winner was painted bright orange. Sure, it had rusted over the years, but you could still spot it from miles and miles away. But the storm was like a pitch-black veil. Our tugboat could hardly see past its bow. They'd never spot the bright orange rig floating freely in the North Sea. The radar data painted a silly picture. It looked like the tugboat was retracing its steps to find something it had misplaced. Of course, that something was a massive oil rig. You might be wondering why they couldn't just track the Winner through radar. When rigs like that embark on their end-of-life journey, they usually turn off their tracking systems. They never saw it again, until the Winner ran aground on the Scottish island of Lewis. Its landing spot couldn't have been more ironic. The Winner was on her way to the grave. After it broke free, it washed up next to a cemetery. According to the BBC, no more than 50 liters of diesel fuel spilled into the water. They weren't taking any more towing risks this time. Instead, they loaded the Winner onto a heavy offshore transport vehicle called the Hawk. From there, the Hawk carried the oil rig to Malta, where it was salvaged for parts. Finally, the Winner was transported to a Turkish scrapyard, its final resting place.
Where do people sleep? Because it doesn't look very big, this rig. Like, you know, you've got this is the, I'm guessing, the pumping mechanism. You've got the landing pad for the helicopter. This looks like a crane that kind of swivels around. Where's the kind of like accommodation?
We began drilling for oil in the Gulf of Mexico in 1942. Since then, about 6,000 oil and gas structures have been built off the Gulf Coast. Some stand in only 10 feet of water. Others are much deeper, at about 10,000 feet. Today, 3,200 active oil structures exist in the Gulf of Mexico, including all the deep-sea rigs. Back in 2018, one of those deep-water semi-submersible structures got caught in a rough storm. A rig worker braved the lower catwalks to record as massive waves crashed into the vessel.
If you've got seasickness, this is just not a job for you, is it? It's just not a job for you. You're constantly going to be like, unless it's a super quiet day out there, like calm sea, calm water. Jeez.
The waves kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. At one point, mist from the crash gets all over our cameraman's lens. Props to him though, because I definitely wouldn't have been standing there. Operating in the Gulf of Mexico is a challenging task. Hurricane season sends waves like this crashing into these rigs all the time. According to the NOIA, offshore rigs are built to withstand gale force winds and severe weather. Every facility built after 1988 was designed to withstand 100-year storms. That is, freak storms that have a 1% chance of happening.
Oh. Wow.
2013 was a tough year for the Iranian.
Okay, this looks like a, I'm guessing this is probably where they sleep on this rig.
industry. U.S.
This is
sanctions aimed
CGI.
at deterring the Iranian nuclear program cut sales by 40%. The oil minister said income was down 45% before China swooped in and saved the day. Then, in early February, the industry suffered another massive setback. The Pars Oil and Gas Company had spent the last 30 months building a brand new $40 million oil rig. It was finally ready to launch in the South Pars gas field in the Persian Gulf. Then, disaster struck. Thankfully, everyone involved walked away unharmed.
Oh my god. Oh my god. How does this happen? How does this happen? Oh my god. 40 million down the drain.
It took 30 months to build and about 30 seconds to sink. You're watching about 4 million pounds of steel and oil drilling equipment sink about 260 feet below the surface. We're not totally sure what went wrong.
But can't they, if it's not been there very long, could they not just use a crane to pull it out? Probably not. There probably isn't a crane in the world that can lift out something that heavy, is there? Yeah, I doubt it.
To Time magazine, the details are still fuzzy. What's worse is the rig never got to drill for any oil. They were literally installing it when a crane allegedly broke and the whole thing started to sink. The workers on board got stuck on the catwalks. It was way too high and dangerous to jump. All they could do is ride the rig to its grave. Perhaps what's most incredible about this whole ordeal is how everybody survived without injury. I guess they had a little luck on their side after all. If you enjoyed this video and want to see another one just like it, then
That was fun. Must be such an interesting job, you know. Like, no 2 days are the same. Obviously, you know, you're going to miss your family while you're on the rig. And I'm guessing internet access and things like that probably aren't great. But, you know, it does seem like a job where at least you're not going to be like sitting down very much. You're probably going to be doing, you know, you're active, you know, you're going to be at like watching these monster waves and stuff. But then again, any job, when you do it for a long time, you probably get sick of it. But man, like some of the waves, like it just, I wonder like how often do these things get capsized? How often do they sink? Like, I know they're designed to be able to withstand like waves crashing into them constantly, but you know, it must happen like, what, at least once a year or so? Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.